Hello, white people. Every year, 300,000 anchor babies born in U.S. An analysis of United States Census Bureau statistics revealed that nearly 300,000 anchor babies, children born to illegal aliens in the U.S., add to the U.S. population annually, with about 20% of all births in America being born to legal or illegal immigrants. And with President Donald Trump's tough-on-immigration agenda being countered by pro-immigration, open-border Democrats at every turn, the trend is no different this year. About 124,000 children of illegal aliens, commonly referred to as anchor babies, have been born in the United States this year thus far, Breitbart News reported from an analysis of Census Bureau figures. In the first 5 months of 2019, about 124 children of illegal aliens were born on U.S. soil, thus solidifying their permanent American citizenship due to the nation's birthright citizenship policy, perpetuating trend within U.S. borders. The shocking figures derived from government statistics put the numbers into perspective and revealed that approximately 25,000 anchor babies are born on American soil on a monthly basis. The 297,000 births per year to illegal immigrants is larger than the total number of births in any state other than California and Texas, and larger than the total number of births in 16 states plus the District of Columbia combined. Center for Immigration Studies, CIS Director of Research Stephen A. Camarota disclosed in a report the estimated 28,000 births to illegal immigrants in just the Los Angeles metro area is larger than the total number of births in 14 states and the District of Columbia. Even though it is taken for granted that anchor babies automatically become U.S. citizens because they are born on American soil, a closer review of the law shows otherwise. The Supreme Court has never explicitly ruled that the children of illegal aliens must be granted birthright citizenship, and many legal scholars dispute the idea. Breitbart's John Binder pointed out, the children of illegal aliens, after being granted birthright citizenship, are able to anchor their illegal alien and non-citizen parents in the U.S. and eventually are allowed to bring an unlimited number of foreign relatives to the country through the legal immigration process known as chain migration. While the debate over anchor babies rages on, millions are being added to the U.S. population at taxpayers' expense, despite Trump's promise to put an end to the practice. Today, there are at least 4.5 million anchor babies in the U.S., exceeding the annual roughly 4 million American babies born every year and costing American taxpayers about $2.4 billion every year to subsidize hospital costs, Binder added. Though President Trump has routinely denounced birthright citizenship, his promise in October 2018 to end the policy has yet to come to fruition. A larger proportion of U.S. births comes from those born outside the U.S. In 2014, 1 in 5 births, 791,000 in the United States, was to an immigrant mother, legal or illegal, CIS's Camarota explained. Our best estimate is that legal immigrants accounted for 12.4%, 494,000 of all births, and illegal immigrants accounted for 7.5, 297,000, counting the cost. And birthing costs are not cheap, with American taxpayers often picking up the tab. Among the native-born, a large share of new mothers, 42%, are either uninsured or on Medicaid, Camarota continued. The rate is even higher among new mothers who are legal immigrants, 47%, and higher still for new mothers who are in the United States illegally, 67%. Almost all of these births are likely paid for by taxpayers. Even though immigrants form a relatively small proportion of the U.S. population, the amount of taxpayer money they absorb for living costs is quite substantial. Of all births likely paid for by taxpayers, about 1 in 4, 429,000, was to an immigrant, legal or illegal, Camarota informed. Illegal immigrants account for 11%, 198,000 of all publicly funded births, and legal immigrants are another 13%, 231,000. We estimate that the cost to taxpayers for births to immigrants, legal and illegal, is roughly $5.3 billion. Putting it into perspective, to understand the magnitude of the number of anchor babies born in the U.S., comparisons were drawn. There are more than 30 times as many anchor babies born every year than the total number of children born to native-born Americans in the state of Delaware, Binder pointed out. Similarly, there are more than 22 times as many anchor babies born every year in the country than there are children born to native-born Americans in the state of South Dakota. The anchor baby population in the U.S. is almost twice the amount of residents living in the U.S. territory of Guam and more than double the population of the U.S. Virgin Islands, where a projected 107,000 residents live. A closer look at the big picture of the current state of immigration was given. In total, there are now an unprecedented nearly 62 million immigrants and their U.S.-born children living across the country, Binder noted. As of 2017, there were 17.1 million U.S.-born minor children of immigrants in the country. Being freely given citizenship for being born in a country is relatively unknown in the rest of the world. The U.S. is nearly alone in granting birthright citizenship to the children of foreign nationals and specifically illegal aliens, Binder informed. For example, the U.S. and Canada are the only two developed nations with birthright citizenship, while on the other hand, countries such as France, the United Kingdom, Ireland, New Zealand, Australia, Italy, and Germany all have either outlawed birthright citizenship or never had such a policy to begin with. As a result of liberal immigration policies, the population derived from immigrants has exploded in the U.S. While foreign nationals and illegal aliens continue to take advantage of the country's birthright citizenship policy, the foreign-born population has boomed to 108-year record high, Binder explained. In 1970, the total foreign-born population in the U.S. was 9.5 million, and today foreign-born residents account for nearly 14% of the total U.S. population, and by 2060, the Census Bureau projects that about 1 in 6 residents in the U.S. will be foreign-born if the country's legal immigration policy continues, Democrats cashing in. And Democrats know that as immigration numbers increase, so does their vote count at the ballot box. The country's legal immigration policy is already having widespread electoral implications, Binder stressed. In the 2020 presidential election, Pew Research Center projects that about 1 in 10 U.S. voters will have been born outside the country, and Hispanic Americans are set to outpace Black Americans as the largest voting minority in the election for the first time in American history. In the next 2 decades, should the country's legal immigration policy go unchanged, the U.S. is set to import about 15 million new foreign-born voters, and about 8 million of these new foreign-born voters will have arrived through chain migration. It is a well-established fact that the overwhelming majority of voters born outside the U.S. will vote Democrat. Foreign-born voters, as researched by Axios, The New York Times, University of Maryland College Park researcher James Gimple, and Ronald Brownstein has confirmed, are more likely than native-born Americans to vote for Democrats, Binder recounted. Brownstein's research concludes that Democrats win about 90% of congressional districts that have foreign-born populations above the national average. This suggests that any district with a foreign-born population larger than 14% has a 90% chance of electing a Democrat over a Republican. This was witnessed just 3 years ago at voting precincts across the nation. The 2016 presidential election between then-candidate Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton revealed a similar trend, Binder inserted. For example, among native-born Americans, Trump won 49% to Clinton's 45%, according to exit polling data. Among foreign-born residents, Clinton dominated against Trump, garnering 64% of the immigration population's vote compared to Trump's mere 31%. And unlike what Democrats constantly argue, many illegals take more from the economy than they give to it, not to mention the fact that much of the money earned by illegal immigrants in the U.S. is sent back to family in Mexico or other countries of origin. Every year, the U.S. admits about 1.2 million mostly low-skilled legal immigrants who compete directly against at least 12 million working and middle-class Americans that continue to be sidelined out of the labor market but who want a good-paying full-time job, Binder divulged. Due to legal immigration driving most of the U.S. population growth, the country is on track to add nearly 80 million new residents to the population by 2060. This would tick the total resident population up from the current level of about 326 million to an unprecedented 404 million total residents. Changes ahead. Last year, Trump told Americans that the current anchor baby policy was on its way out the door, an issue he brought to light at the beginning of the decade. President Trump vowed in October 2018 to end the policy, but it remains intact, WND reported. He made an issue of it as early as 2011 in his book Time to Get Tough, Making America Number One Again, which contains a 5-point plan on immigration reform. At the time, he brought the 14th Amendment to light, arguing that those pushing to provide a legal route for people to become citizens by merely being born on American soil have misrepresented the amendment. Some 4 million anchor babies are now officially U.S. citizens, Trump wrote in Time to Get Tough. This has to stop. The only other major country in the world that issues citizenship based on where one's mother delivers her child is Canada. The rest of the world bases citizenship on who the kid's parents are, which, of course, the only sane standard. Trump went on to make his case and point. If a pregnant American mother is traveling to Egypt on business and goes into delivery, do we instantly declare her child an Egyptian? Of course not, he impressed in his book. But in America, women who have zero connection to the United States cross the border, deliver a baby, and their kid magically becomes an American citizen, eligible to receive all the rights and benefits of those who have lived, worked, and paid taxes in our country. A citation of the 14th Amendment was then given, which declares all citizens born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens of the United States and the state wherein they reside, and the future president at the time clarified what he believed to be its true intention. The clear purpose of the 14th Amendment, ratified in 1868, 3 years after the end of the Civil War, was to guarantee full citizenship rights to now emancipated former slaves, Trump argued. It was not intended to guarantee untrammeled immigration to the United States. Alrighty, so let's address a few things. First of all, we're going to talk about this one thing that libshits say that drive me absolutely bananas. Well, they say several things that make me bananas, but here's one of them. Well, the Indians were here first. Alrighty, so guess what? The Indians didn't form a nation, they didn't have sovereign borders, and they didn't have a central government like we have now. There's no way that they could have kicked us out. There's no way that they were going to band together to kick us out. They hated each other, they wanted each other dead, and they wanted their stuff. This is a third world mindset. Libshits don't have a problem that a people get conquered. They just have a problem that we conquered a people. Too bad. They're just going to have to deal with that. Another thing I want to address. Our ancestors came from civilized nations. They came to raw wilderness and built a civilization with their bare hands. Third worlders are coming from third world nations and recreating their third world nations in our first world nations. Our ancestors were not immigrants, and that pisses me off when anybody says that our ancestors were immigrants. They were settlers, conquerors, pioneers, and frontiersmen. And the last thing that I want to address is that the alternative media keeps saying, oh, the Democrats are a dumpster fire, and more black people and more Hispanics are going to vote for Trump. Ah, baloney. None of that's true. These people hate Trump. All of these immigrants hate Trump, and this next election is where the rubber is meeting the road. This is where we will be voted out of our country. Buckle up, it's gonna get bad. The Democrats have been voting in anti-constitutional laws for years, and the Republicans back them up by not repealing these anti-constitutional laws. In a nutshell, politicians are evil, and they are all out to end the white race or ethnic Americans, however you want to look at it. The point is, all these unconstitutional people that are in our country right now, 2/3 of them are going to vote for Democrats. And Democrats will continue to pass anti-constitutional laws, and Republicans will continue to pretend like they are disgusted. I fibbed. I have one more point. The Democrats are purposefully looking like they are a train wreck. Why? To fool people into thinking that third worlders are okay because third worlders are not going to vote for a dumpster fire, when we all know that that's not going to be the case. All right, white people, that's the damage for today. Thank you so much for listening. I look forward to your comments below.